This is Outnumbered. I'm Andrea Tanteros, and here with us today, Harris Faulkner, Democratic strategist, and Fox News contributor Julie Rodzinski, political commentator and national spokeswoman for the LIBRE Initiative, Rachel Campos-Duffy, and today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, FBN senior correspondent, the man who makes bankers shake in their Gucci loafers. Charlie Gasparino is back, the push-up king, and you're outnumbered, Mr. Gasparino.
I know. Just don't, no, not in the face, whatever.
The last time you and I got together on this couch, I ended up on your back and you were doing push-ups.
It was easy.
Oh my God. I'm surprised you can even walk, young man. Good for you.
Thank you for calling me young.
I do that with everybody.
Okay.
All right, well, let's work out the news, shall we, Charlie? Okay. Hillary Clinton pushing back against claims made in a soon-to-be-published book that could derail her presidential campaign. Right now, the newly announced presidential candidate is set to deliver remarks and present awards at a ceremony at Georgetown University as her team draws up a battle plan to discredit the information in Clinton Cash, the book that claims that the then Secretary of State gave favors to countries that donated to her family's foundation. Now, the Clinton campaign is circulating a 3-page strategy memo to its allies, saying in part, quote, "These types of books are standard fare in political campaigns now, and this one is clearly a part of a coordinated Republican strategy. But this is not the first work of partisan-fueled fiction about Hillary Clinton's record, and we know it will not be the last." Okay, Charlie Gasparino, so is the New York Times now part of this Republican conspiracy? Because they're the ones that did this initial story talking about, and not editorializing, Charlie, talking about how damaging this could be.
I'm surprised she didn't call it the vast right-wing conspiracy, which was, a blast from the past. I would say this. I'm of two minds on this book. Number one, I would feel much more comfortable if the journalism community, New York Times, us, everybody, broke the story as opposed to some political... I mean, this guy's a political operative, okay? That taints it right off the bat.
But he's taking shots at Republicans,
Let me make
too.
my point, and then you guys can attack me. That said, facts are facts. And I will tell you this, as someone who's been on the receiving end of lots of tips from operatives. That's where we get our stories from often, because they go out, they do advanced research, and they tell journalists, he's just eliminated the middleman, right? Instead of this guy going to you, or to Brett Baer, or to some guy at the New York Times, he just put it all in a book, and he threw it out there. So that's the real difference here. And I hate to say this to the wannabe President Clinton, facts are facts, and his book will be judged on the facts. And so far, it seems like most of it is panning out.
Yeah.
Well, Harris, typically campaigns don't react this way when they feel that something is a big nothing burger. The fact that they're putting out this memo and they're sending their surrogates out in rapid fire tells me they're pretty worried.
Well, it just looks questionable when you have her take herself out of the foundation not even a week before this book comes out. And so you kind of get an idea that they knew that this was coming. It's May 5th that it's going to come out officially for all of us to read. But ahead of that, New York Times has a copy and potentially other news media organizations as well. So it's interesting to see them kind of put themselves in go gear. They had to have known this was coming. Oh, yeah. What took them so long? But you know what they're all screaming in the back room? Because you used to do this for campaigns. Change the subject! Change the subject! Yeah. Talk about anything else! And then, boom! Populous. Wow, look at this New York Times article. Campaign cost Hillary that, it's casting her as a populist. Let's talk about that. Let's get as many memos out about that. Let's tell them we'll do interviews on that and how she's always fought for the little man. Blah, 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 blah.
Watch for them to nitpick sort of immaterial facts. I mean, as someone who, listen,
you mean after the book comes out?
I've written a bunch of books. They were journalistic books, mostly. One was somewhat political, but they were mostly...
And this may very well be, too.
And they go after little tiny facts to discredit the
these aren't little tiny facts, Rachel. These are big facts that actually point to a correlation. She's trying to say, this is nothing, this is just partisan attacks. However, this author has also gone after Republicans. I mean, he's an equal opportunity, I would say, challenger as an author and an investigative journalist.
And look for them to nitpick the author. If he was a woman, I think they'd be calling him a bimbo right now. This is a machine that has orchestrated attacks on the messengers before, whether they were Paula Jones or Kathleen Riley.
You really think she's an investigative reporter?
I do.
Oh, come on.
Julie Rodzinski. My goodness.
You know what, Charlie? You know what, Charlie?
They're not saying he's a stupid guy. I'm just saying he's a guy.
No, the New York Times used to employ him. So clearly, Julie Rodzinski, the New York Times feels that he was good enough for their payroll, and they're not exactly part of a right-wing conspiracy.
No, and the New York Times is excerpting his book and working with him and doing follow-up research on it. I guess they don't, as you said, Charlie, they don't trust him to do it, so they're doing their own due diligence on it, as is Fox News and a bunch of other places. But this is what I'll say. And I've said this before. If I were the Republicans, I'm about to give the Republicans some advice, which is, you know,
listen up, everyone.
Pigs are flying. I'm about to give them the best advice I possibly can. Clintons are immune to scandal. They have tried with Whitewater. They have tried with cattle futures. They have tried with Monica Lewinsky. They have tried, you know, Kathleen Wiley, so on and so forth. She's still the most popular woman in America. Her husband is still the most popular elected official. If I were the Republicans, go after her on substance. Go after her on substance. Don't go after her on scandal. It's not going to work.
But why is that? Why couldn't they do it in the past? Because confluence of factors, which is what we're talking about here. Campaign contribution, speech, or contribution from foreign government, paid speech by foreign government. Those sort of confluences don't often mean anything other than there's a confluence and they speak their way around it. And that's what I think this book is. This book is going to be like Whitewater.
But Julie,
thank you. Which went nowhere. Which went nowhere.
But this is the difference. This book isn't just about Hillary Clinton's personal life. This ties directly into what you're saying, going after her record. This talks about what she was doing when she was Secretary of State. It's not just what were the Clintons up to behind closed doors in cattle futures or Bill's bedroom. This is very, very different.
Here's a
this is an administration, Charlie, whose State Department, let me finish, was bought and paid for, perhaps.
Here's a
That's a huge policy
But here's a newsflash. The Clintons are sleazy.
Is this a breaking news flash?
That's what I'm saying. That's why this thing, in my view...
But you think Americans don't care about that?
Can we just talk about the timing,
I'm with Charlie
the context of this? Because, okay, so you put out that the Clintons are sleazy and how this is like Whitewater and it's going to go away because it's just a scandal.
Even worse.
But this has to do with states that have been accused of sponsoring terrorism, potentially taking money, with horrible human rights records, potentially taking money, and there being some quid pro quo with the Clintons through their foundation.
Buddhist temples.
Look at what's happening in the world right now with regard to terrorism. I would argue that the date on the calendar makes it very, very difficult to get beyond this particular category of scandal.
And may I give you an answer? I'm sorry, but may I give you an answer to that? This is what the Clintons are likely going to say, and they're right to say it. Yes, we took their money. Yes, they're a bunch of sleazy governments, but you know what? We took their money in order to improve the quality of life for women across the third world, including some of those governments.
Did it improve it? Because I'll tell you what I've read.
Hey, listen, the LIBRE Initiative has done a lot of good for a lot of people.
At the State Department at the same time that the money was flowing into the Clinton coffers for the foundation were working on the Keystone Pipeline. I don't see any women benefiting from that.
How much you want to bet in 6 months we're not talking about that?
I agree with Charlie on that.
But you also
what am I betting on?
We gotta go.
Dinner at Hunting Fish Club.
We gotta go.
I'll be talking about it just to get that dinner.
Can I get in on that? Because I want to get in on that one. I agree.
But also, you worked for Bob Menendez.
I did not work for
Administration is prosecuting Bob Menendez for doing the same thing.
Well, and that's
a little bit hypocritical.
Can I just say that? You're absolutely right. I know we have to go, but that's a huge issue. The administration is prosecuting Bob Menendez for that.
That's a little different.
I'm with you on that.
All right, more on Hillary. She's vowing to take on the wealthiest Americans. According to the New York Times, Clinton spoke to economists in an off-the-record meeting about her plan to strengthen the middle class. Now, the Times saying, quote, Mrs. Clinton intensely studied a chart that showed income inequality in the United States. She then pointed at the top category and said the economy required a, quote, toppling of the wealthiest 1%. But Hillary is part of the 1% herself. Her estimated net worth was more than $15 million in 2012. Okay, so Rachel, is this her campaign theme? Yeah. If you elect me president, I will bring myself down. I will fight myself every step of the way.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, one of her operatives said she was Elizabeth Warren before Elizabeth Warren was Elizabeth Warren. So I think she's really trying to fit into that.
Sounds like an SNL.
Yeah, right. The whole thing does. Look, she'll be toppling herself. She'll be toppling her neighbors. If Hillary Clinton was really serious about dealing with the 1%, she'd deal with the 1% in the 5 counties surrounding Washington, D.C., the richest counties in the country. And the reason why they're rich is it's lobbyists and it's big government and businesses trying to negotiate rules and regulations around government. That's how you deal with the 1%. But she's never going to do that because she takes money from all those people.
I know that face.
I just think that her people behind the scenes are just joyous that we're talking about this because we're not talking about the other Clinton Foundation scandal. I mean, my goodness, a change of subject. That's what I said before.
You know what?
in this in some way? Like, well, she was the 1.5% or whatever they have to say to get her out of this.
That's better than
this
that.
Is so much better than talking about the other thing.
It's a complete ruse. Listen, as someone who reports on the 1% every day, and her supporters among the 1% are telling me right now, and they predicted this weeks ago, I wrote a column about it, this is a ruse. She's going to beat them up for a while. That's what they said. They're going to take it. They're going to get beat up. And then she's going to, quote unquote, go back to normal, as one person told me. And one of the 1% told me. So they're expecting this. They're expecting class warfare, adopting Elizabeth Warren sort of rhetoric. But, you know, they believe they have a friend in the White House. This is the liberal 1%, the crony capitalists that love to pay money for government contracts. They're all over. That's what Clinton's all about since the Whitewater days.
Charlie, you mentioned earlier, and you were kidding, but you said, newsflash, the Clintons are shady. Newsflash now.
I said sleazy.
Sleazy. Okay, they're sleazy, they're shady, they're sketchy, whatever. No one's surprised. They're also rich, and not another shocker. Do people care about this?
No, because Lloyd Blankfein at Goldman Sachs, who essentially paid Hillary Clinton for 2 hours worth of mumbo jumbo, in a conference room, $400,000, doesn't care. He thinks it's a ruse. Larry Fink, who runs BlackRock, who put Cheryl Mills on
Why do they do it? Why do they do it?
Why? Because they think this is the price to pay to get their person.
And by the way,
back in the White House, the queen of crony capitalism, where her husband was the king of
Charlie, back me up on this. Nobody did more to help Wall Street than Bill Clinton as president.
Of course, and I could give you a million different things.
We all have to agree.
And hurt Main Street as he was helping it. And we don't have enough time to explain it, but that's what he did.
But can we all agree that this was one hell of a rollout? I mean, a terrible campaign rollout. Think about it.
We're all talking about
burritos, buying the State Department. It's not good for her.
Hey, we're talking about it, but you know what she's talking about? Income inequality. We're even talking about it, and Harris, you nailed it.
Really?
This is the best day of the Clinton campaign that we keep talking about.
Income inequality that grew under her boss.
And let me tell you, you're right. And let me tell you something. That's the best way to get the Democratic primary base.
And this Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern, Fox News Channel will be airing a very special news reporting on the tangled Clinton web. It's going to be anchored by Special Reports' Brett Baer. Fox has an exclusive television interview with the author of the book that we have vehemently debating on this couch, as well as plenty of original reporting. You do not want to miss it. And the Drug Enforcement Administration chief stepping down following a bombshell report about agents engaging in wild sex parties funded by Colombian drug cartels. Oh yeah. And one lawmaker is not buying the claim that agents couldn't be fired. Plus, moms and dads, pay attention. A shocking new survey shedding light on young girls and the pressures that they face, all thanks to sexualized images of women that are saturating ads and social media, that lip craze that you see with the Kardashians. We're going to talk about that. And right after the show, catch more from the couch on the web. Join us for Outnumbered Overtime, a.k.a. OT, according to Harris Faulkner. FoxNews.com/Outnumbered. Click the OT tab. Tweet us questions, comments. Get on the chat now, and we'll fire it up for you right after the show.